Hello and welcome to this tutorial on workflow. Specifically in Final Cut Pro, I'm going to take you through all the steps from setting up your camera to the importing process. Most importantly, in my opinion, is file organization, making sure you can find everything you need and you know exactly where it'll be, and you make sure you've got a solid backup system so that you'll never ever lose anything ever again. So this is the camera that I use. It is a Canon S120. It's a really good pocketable compact camera that shoots in 1080p at 60 frames a second and gives you full manual controls in your photos and video. It's the perfect option for vloggers. You can carry it anywhere with you. These are my settings on it. So first of all, start with the basics. Get your date and time right and very accurate, and make sure it's the same in every camera you're using. So what I like to do, because I use my iPhone sometimes, as I'm using right now, I like to set my cameras to the same time to the second that it is on my iPhone, so that later when you import them to Final Cut and everything's in order of time, all of your clips, no matter what camera they're from, are going to be in the right order in Final Cut. You're not going to have to mess around with organising them all, putting them in the right order yourself. You can organise them by time and it'll all be perfectly accurate. So they're the video settings. 1080p at 60 frames a second. Every now and then I'll shoot in 30 frames a second if I know I'm not going to be slowing anything down, just daily vlogging. It saves an awful lot of space. You can see there at 30 frames a second I can get 80 minutes of footage, and on 60 frames a second I can only get 55. Keep that in mind. But in general, just try and shoot so that you've got the biggest range of options later, because you don't want to get into the editing later and think, oh, actually that would look quite good slowed down. So yeah, just shoot so that you've got lots of options later. Now that we have the camera settings down, let's get into importing. I suggest doing everything on external hard drives. If you do it on your computer, then if your computer's ever lost, stolen, it breaks, then you're going to be quite stuffed. Even if you've got a backup, it's going to be a pain in the butt. I would suggest just working from them always. It also means if you ever need to use another computer for whatever reason, you can just plug the external hard drives in that you're working off and done. I've had to do that countless times, and I've been really glad that everything's not on my computer. These are my hard drives of choice. They are Buffalo external hard drives. I've got two of them here. This one is the working drive. So the working drive is where you put anything that you're currently working on. That's your main drive that you work off. This is just a standard one that I bought. I think it was a 500 gig. I ripped it apart, put a solid state 250 gig drive in here, which is amazing. It's much cheaper than buying a solid state one to begin with, much cheaper. And then this backup is just like a terabyte standard hard drive. It's the same thing. They're great. A lot of professionals use these because they're pretty solid and they're easy to work with, and they also support Thunderbolt and USB 3. So say you want to run them both at the same time and you've got an older MacBook Pro like mine with only one Thunderbolt port, you can have, say, your working drive running off Thunderbolt and the other one off USB 3. You've got the option there. And it also means if you go on a Windows computer, anything that doesn't have Thunderbolt, you've got the option. You're not limited to USB 3. This is the computer that I'm working on. It is a MacBook Pro. I've upgraded it to 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a 250 gigabyte solid state drive in here. Like I said before, all of your files and all of the stuff you're working on, keep them on the external drives and just use this to run the software. Speeds things up a heck of a lot. Solid state drives are the best investments you'll ever make if you do this regularly. It'll make your life so much better, that's a promise. And in terms of priority, what you should do first, always get faster hard drives before RAM, much more important. So it's time to take you into the computer itself. So here we go, we are on the computer. Right, first things first, get your SD card up. There we go, there's all my images that I've got. This is just another SD card I've got lying around so I can show you file organization. Don't worry about the fact there's no video on there. We'll get into Final Cut and use some video I've already got up later. I'm going to open another tab in here. And here's my hard drive. So that's my working drive, that's my backup drive. So I do photography and video, so I'll get into the video one. This is for my vlogs, and this is how they're all organized. You want to organize things by the American standard. So you want to use the year first, then the month, which is September, and then the day, which say on this video here is the 4th. The reason for this, if you use any other kind of formatting, then it's going to mess up your file organization. You want everything from 2015 to be there, and then it'll go to 2014. You don't want it to be arranging it by day, because obviously 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, and then it's eventually going to go back to 1, and all your videos, all of your organization is going to be completely wrong. Inside these, just get everything that's on your card that you want to use in these videos, and then you just want to paste them into this folder here, and this just keeps everything incredibly organized. Okay, so we are now in Final Cut Pro. I like to keep my library just on the working drive, and then every now and then you'll need to create a new library because it'll start going slow and you'll run out of space on your hard drive and you'll have to archive it. And then in terms of events, I just like to use the same format, new event for each video. So I'm going to import my files now, so import media. A good thing to do, get your folders up. Say I've got video, which is where all my video files on my working drive are, and I've got music here where I've got all of my iTunes library. I've got like a playlist of royalty-free music that I can use. I find the best places for music, YouTube channels such as Suicide Sheep. It's on YouTube anyway, so it tends to be alright to use. Just be a little bit careful. If you can, check the copyrights and stuff on them. Try and confirm that it is royalty-free. There's always going to be a bit of a grey area if you want to use good music, but you can always minimise the risks of getting brought up on it. Majestic Casual is really good. Just try and get some nice music that doesn't take over your video, unless it's say a video where you're going to be going through lots of exciting stuff, in which case you might want the music to kind of play a main role. If you search on SoundCloud, click on tracks and then choose to use commercially, you should be completely safe with that. Just be careful if people have put up remixes of songs that are copyrighted, because that might get you in trouble. So here's all those files that we organised earlier. I'm just going to go into yesterday's vlog. So these are the files that I imported initially. You can see them all there. So I just take them all and I'll import them into Final Cut here. So here they all are. You'll need to create a new project. Project is basically this here. It's your timeline. So I'll do the same thing again. 2015, 09, 18, Y, vlog. That's what it's called. And there you go. You've got a new timeline here. What I like to do first, I'll just create a very rough idea, like a very rough storyline. The I key in Final Cut selects an in point for your videos, and the O key selects an out point. So say on this clip, I can run through it. Say I want to come in here, that'll put an in point, and then I'll click O when I want to stop, and that'll create this little scene, and I can drag this down there. So say there's a big bit of talking like there is here. A great idea if you're doing videos is cut it down to what you're actually trying to say. Don't leave whole chunks of talking in there, because people will get bored and they'll just click off. All these words that you use when you're talking, especially when you're new to it like I am. I find myself having to edit quite a lot of little bits like and like slang words that maybe people in places you're not from wouldn't understand. Just try and edit them all out. So one of the main reasons I like Final Cut over say Premiere Pro is, say if I want to shorten this here, it's going to drag all this other stuff, or if I want to make a cut. Here's a good example. So there's like a big gap here. I can select an in point, an out point there, delete this, it'll get rid of this little space where they seem tiny, but they all add up and it makes your video flow so much better. But as you saw there, when I deleted that, these clips came together. And I found myself when I tried to use Premiere Pro, it would take you forever to try and arrange them all. Every time you make a cut, you might make like tens of these when you're editing like a long talking bit. When you've got loads of these and you have to move your whole timeline just slightly in a Premiere Pro, it's a bit of a nightmare. So that's why I like to use Final Cut for this, even though Premiere Pro is by all means quite a lot better software for many things. So that's the basics of how I edit. I'll do that for everything. I won't do all that cutting stuff straight away. I'll create a whole story first, and then I'll get into cutting everything down and making it flow nicely after. So then once I've done all this, say if I've got some clips that are inside in artificial lighting at night or whatever, like say this clip here, I'll just put this little bit in. And you see how the colour in this is so different to this because of the lighting. So I'll go through, select any clips that are inside, I'll go modify, you've got to make sure the clip's selected, modify, match colour, and then you can match it to one of the clips that's inside, and you see there how it's matched the colour. And 9 times out of 10 it'll look okay. So then once I've got everything sorted, everything's cut down, I'll select everything, File, New, Compound Clip, or you can just do Alt and G, and that'll create a compound clip. It'll just put everything together, which keeps it all neat and tidy. It reduces file size, and then it's on to color correction. So to do color correction, select your compound clip. This is why you've got to match color before you do color correction. Otherwise, when it comes to color correction, you're gonna overcorrect all the stuff that's really yellow. So if you're trying to warm all your footage up, like I tend to do a little bit, then it's going to make your indoor footage really, really yellow, which isn't good. So you click these little sliders here, color correction 1. I'll tend to just bring the highlights down a little bit, makes it a little bit warmer. Tend to bump up the midtones, so add just a little bit of blue into the midtones a tiny bit, and then I'll warm up the shadows slightly, which just brings this whole nice, warm, cozy feel to the videos, which 9 times out of 10 I like that. I like it to feel like you're here with me. I like to share the best bits of my day. So that's that. Levels, I'll tend to bring shadows down just a tiny bit to get like proper black. And I tend to just bump the highlights up slightly to give it a slightly overexposed look, which is just this personal preference really. Mess about with it, go what you like. There's loads of tutorials. King Tut's Pro is really good for color correction type stuff. Check him out. Flern is absolutely incredible. Flern's entirely based on photography, but you'll find that in terms of color and style and everything, photography and video very, very similar. It's just how it's basically software is the only difference really, and how you go about editing something. But if you check out my photography, you'll notice it looks very similar in style to my videos. I tend to take a little bit of saturation out. Again, it's just a personal thing. I quite like that look. Okay, we're back. Just had to replace the battery in my camera because it was about to die. We've got all our clips together, we've color corrected it. Music wise, I'll just bring up some music here quickly. I've got my music folder. I'll just put this song in. I think this is a royalty-free song. I'm just going to quickly put it. Try and match your music to the video as much as you can. Match cuts to everything, and make sure that if you're talking about something, you can usually just tell if it's good to have music in the background or not. If I'm sitting at my desk just talking about a subject, I'll always put music in the background because I think it makes it a bit more interesting, helps keep people's interest. But say if I'm talking and it's just part of my life, I'm out talking to Andrea downstairs or I'm out on the streets, I'll usually not put music to that because I don't think it really adds to it. If you want to reduce the volume when you're talking, amazing tool is the range tool. You press R and then you want to just choose where you're talking here, highlight that, and then if you drag down the volume here, around -15 to -20 tends to be a good place to bring your volume down. See here, it'll like pan down the volume at the start and then pan it up at the end, so it saves you a lot of time cutting stuff and messing around getting all your levels right. It's a lot easier just to use the range tool, so you can hear. And it's really good. That's easily the best way to sort that out. So you've got your video, it's all done. I'm now going to create a compound clip for the audio and the video together, which just keeps everything really good. So to export, I'm going to go to File, Share. If this is the first time, go Add Destination. I'm going to go to Export File. You want to make sure your video codec's H.264. It's just a really good general codec, works pretty much everything, and it'll compress it down a fair bit. And then you can make like a default. So here it's just export file, it's the one at the bottom. I didn't name it, it's me being not as organised as I should have been. So there we go. It's all set up for YouTube. You can see it is in 1080p at 30 frames a second, and then I'll name it Final Cut. And it'll take a few minutes to do that, and then we're going to get into compression. Okay, so let's get into compression. Let's find our video here that we exported from Final Cut. This is the full vlog, so just pretend that you've edited your whole movie now. This is the file that we've got, Final Cut. Here we go. It's all finished. As you can see here, it is 652.6 megabytes, which is pretty big. If you value your upload times and your viewers streaming stuff, make sure it's not buffering, make sure YouTube's not compressing it for you and taking quality out. You want to be in control of that yourself. Download Handbrake is this really good compression app. Let me check the version here. My version is 0.9.5. I'm pretty sure the newer versions don't give you enough control over compression and size, so it's good to use that version. So you're going to select your exported movie there, Final Cut, and then I just tend to call it Final Cut Comp, so it's the compressed version. And then target size here, you want to select that, so you can type in the target size, and then you want to find out how big your file is, so 652.6 megabytes, and then half it. If you go much under half, you're going to start losing quality on your videos, so make sure you don't do more than that. But I've never had any problems with quality when I've just compressed it halfway. So 326.3, so I'm just going to round it up to 327 megabytes, and then you'll click start, and that'll take about maybe 10 minutes to compress that. And you can see here, Final Cut Comp, the final size is 338.7 megabytes, as against the previous one, which was 352. So, and you can see the quality is the same really. It's nothing that you can tell on a YouTube video anyway, but you've half the size, so that's that. So let's get into backup. As you saw earlier on, I've got a separate hard drive backing everything up, and there are systems such as Time Machine, Lightroom if you're doing photos has an option to back up. Don't do any of it, do it all yourself. Have complete control over it, and don't trust any other system other than yourself to do it. This could be your work, it could be memories that you do not want to lose. Just do it yourself. I would never let backup be out of my hands. So at the end of every day, I'll just Command-Alt, copy everything that's there. I'll paste it to my backup drive. So you want to transfer everything. It'll take a while to do it all. Every day you just want to be copying everything to your backup drive, and then when it's copying, it'll overwrite all the stuff that was there from yesterday. And then what you want to check once it's finished, photography, is 138.23 gigabytes, and that's 53 items. And I would check it on the backup drive, it should be exactly the same. The odd byte might change around a bit, it doesn't matter too much. Make sure that's all correct. Every now and then I'll actually go into these folders and compare them to my SD card if it's a really important bit of footage. But only then can you erase your SD card when it's backed up in 2 other locations, because unless it's in at least 2 locations, it doesn't exist. Another tip here is always format your SD card in your camera. Don't just erase it on your computer. It just makes a better performance. It means everything's running the way the camera likes it to run. And always start on a fresh SD card each day. Don't be tempted to keep your stuff on there from yesterday or whenever. Fresh SD card for every project you do. That's what I like to do. It stops you getting mixed up. It stops you deleting stuff by accident or accidentally importing stuff that's already been imported or isn't part of the project you're working on at that time. So that's it, guys. I really hope that helps you learn a lot about workflow and keeping on top of all of your files, and a little bit about editing as well. I mean, I didn't want to go too in depth. There's loads of really good stuff out there. Like I said, Flurn, Creative Live, there's lots of places on YouTube. But I hope this kind of gave you a better idea of file organization and backup and the kind of hardware that's really good. This works really well for me. I hope that helped a lot. This is something that I struggled with for ages, trying to keep on top of everything and knowing where stuff was and making sure that stuff wasn't going to be deleted by accident. Organization is the most important thing when you're making videos, and if it does not exist in 2 places, it doesn't exist at all. Right, the daily vlog will still be up to date. Check out my channel if you want to see those. That's it for this. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.